Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley here for ellenhutson.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing the essential guide to adhesives, and we're going to go over all different kinds of adhesives, what I like to use them for, and some different techniques that you can try with some of these specialty adhesives. So here's a look at what we're going to be going over, and keep in mind this is not all-inclusive adhesives, but these are the ones I find myself reaching for the most. So we will start out with a tape runner because I think a tape runner is essential to your sticky needs. And the one I've been reaching for the most recently is the Gina Dot Runner Adhesive Roller here. And they do have refills. They are available in 30-foot lengths. And this just fits in your hand so beautifully. The other thing that I really like about these refills is that they're kind of packaged separately on one backer. So I can open this up and the other one stays contained inside its packaging, and I can remove one of the refills. Now mine needed to be refilled, so I thought I'd show you how to refill it here on camera. I just push the button at the bottom to open up the adhesive runner, and then I pulled out the old runner, placed the new one right on, and then just closed it up, and we're ready to go. Now I have to tell you that that is one of the easiest refillable adhesive rollers that I've ever used. Some of them can be quite clumsy. And you can see it rolls really smoothly. I've put a little bit on this paper here. It's got an instant stick, and I use this most to adhere paper to paper. So that's what I find it most useful for. It does come out in kind of a dot or honeycomb pattern. It's easy to rub away if you put a little adhesive on something and you want to remove it. You can pick it up, but it is a permanent adhesive, and once it sets on that paper a little bit more, it's going to really adhere and give you a nice hold. Now, next up in these dry or instant adhesives is Be Creative tape. And Be Creative tape comes in quite a variety of widths. So you kind of have to decide what width you use the most. I keep several of them on hand because I think it's such a great adhesive. And you're going to see the most used adhesives here on my wrist. They make beautiful bracelets, don't they? So my most used ones are going to be the 1/2 inch, the 1/4 inch, and the 1/8 inch. I also have a 2-inch wide here and the sheet adhesive version of this. So all of these are the same adhesive. They're just in different sizes. Now I really like this adhesive because it is strong. Instantly strong. You don't want to make a mistake where you put this because you're not going to be able to pull it up. Now, I think an adhesive like this is great for putting together boxes or envelopes, and you can see that as I put this onto the paper, I'm simply tearing it. And I love an adhesive that I can tear. I don't have to use scissors with this. I don't have to gunk up my scissors. I can just simply put it down, tear off the piece that I need, and it makes it fast and easy to use. Now, this is great for assembling boxes and things like that, but you can also use it for things like transfer foil, which I'm showing you here. So I'm just adding this tape onto the cardstock, and I'm pressing the transfer foil right over the top and just peeling it off. And that gives me a perfect line of this transfer foil. The other thing that it's really good for are things like glitter and flocking. You could even add heat embossing powder on top of this and heat set it because this adhesive is heat resistant, and not all adhesives are heat resistant. Some of them will break down if you add heat to them. So I'm just showing you a couple of those options here, starting out with the glitter. Now, I know a lot of you don't like to use loose glitter. You think it's a mess. It is a mess, but I think it is one of the funnest messes you can possibly make because it's so sparkly. And I just thought I would show you that I'm working over a coffee filter, and then any of the loose glitter that I got on my work surface, I'm just using a Swiffer dusting cloth to just pick that up. And this works really good to get all that loose glitter off your surface, and you can be clean and tidy again. So flocking is a great medium to use with this adhesive as well. Because this is such a strong instant adhesive, it makes it ideal for adhering things like the flocking and the foil and the glitter. And I've just used some of the ThermoWeb flock material here for that bottom line, and I'm left with this really cool velvety line. Now you could also take the sheet adhesive of this brand and do the same thing. You could cut out your shapes. And speaking of sheet adhesives, I wanted to go into a little comparison here because Stick It adhesive and Be Creative tape, adhesive, the sheet adhesives. I like both of them, but I like them for different things. Now, stick-it adhesive comes in 2 different sizes. You can see the large size and the handy sheets. The Be Creative is more like a letter size. And I kind of use these for different things. I really like the stick-it adhesive for die cutting. I find that it die cuts beautifully. I don't get as great of results with the Be Creative tape. So I know you're thinking, why would you need sheet adhesive of the Be Creative tape if you have the stick-it adhesive? Well, I like to use the sheet adhesive for the Be Creative tape to create things like backgrounds with strips of paper or add glitter to large areas. You can die cut it. You do need a little more pressure, and I don't recommend it with intricate dies, but I'm going to show you kind of the difference in the die cutting here. So I have one piece of cardstock with the Be Creative tape, and I have another piece of cardstock with the stick-it adhesive. Now, the stick-it adhesive is going to feel much thinner in your hand, and that's because the backing paper is much thinner, which makes it more ideal for die cutting. So I have this Hello die from the Essentials by Ellen line, and I'm just putting that through my die cut machine. No special sandwiches. I have the stick-it adhesive on top of this cardstock, and you can see right away, this popped right out. It cut right through, no issues. I do have to use my little pokey tool to get the die cut out of the die, but this cut beautifully. And now this is ready, if I had the adhesive on the back, to either place right onto my project or stack up with another die cut, or since the adhesive's on the front, I could cover it with glitter or other materials. Now we're going to do the same thing with the Be Creative tape. Same cardstock, same cutting sandwich, and you can see already this didn't cut all the way through, and that's because the adhesive itself and the backer is a little bit thicker than the stick-it adhesive, so it has a little bit harder time cutting all the way through. Now, if I would have used a shim, I probably could have made this work, but I just find that the stick-it adhesive is my preference for die cutting. Now, the Be Creative tape, you can see when I remove the backer, it's got a nice solid area of adhesive. I find that it transfers really well. The stick-it adhesive, sometimes you can get little gaps in it. Do you see this little gap up here? So if I'm going to cover an entire area with like glitter or something, I'm not going to reach for stick-it. I'm going to reach for the Be Creative. So I hope that helps you in determining which sheet adhesive you need to use. Next up are glue dots. I think glue dots are the unsung hero of adhesives. They are quick and instant stick. They come on a roll. They're really convenient, and they stick really well. I find they're great for embellishments. These are a flat 3/8 inch glue dot, and you can see they're stuck. And I wanted to show you, you can get the same results with like a button. I think that glue dots are great for things like this. You could use a liquid adhesive, but if you want it to be dry instantaneously and hold on there, a glue dot is a great option for things like that. Now, next up are these sticky specks, and these are kind of new. These are available from Ecstasy Crafts, and they are also available from ThermoWeb, and we will link those below. But if you can see here, this is a 36 times magnification of these sheets. These are sheets of little teeny dots of adhesive, and these are great for adhering like intricate die cuts that if you don't want to use liquid adhesive for. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be an instant stick, so you have to decide whether or not you want the instant stick of a dry adhesive like this, or if you want a little bit of wiggle room with like a liquid adhesive. But you can see I'm just taking this intricate die, I'm placing it onto the sheet. I'm just kind of rubbing it. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I'm just making sure that those adhesive dots transfer over. And then I'm going to pick this up, and it's going to have a bunch of those little tiny they're not microscopic, you can see them, but they're really tiny little dots of adhesive. And you can just pick that up. And now this intricate die cut has adhesive all over the back, and I can adhere it onto my card project. Now, I will tell you that sometimes those little dots of adhesive stick out further than your die cut, but they're really easy to just rub away with your finger. So I'm just taking my finger, rubbing it over the surface, and it's removing any of that extra adhesive that's sticking out from the edge. And then I have an instant quick stick for an intricate die. So these are really great and something new on the market. And like I said, we will link both the Ecstasy Crafts and the ThermoWeb version below. Now, next up is foam adhesive, dimensional adhesive. This is what makes our cards pop. And I have to tell you that my favorite of all the foam adhesives is the 3M Scotch foam mounting tape. And I love this because I can tear it. Any adhesive, as I mentioned before, that I can tear it has my heart. It makes my life easier. Now this comes in a big huge roll, and you can absolutely cut it down into particular sizes, or you can tear it. I like to use my Tim Holtz scissors because they tend to be non-stick, and so that makes it really great for cutting things like adhesive. But you can see I'm just adding pieces to the back of this die cut stamped image, and then I can add it onto my card project, and that's going to give a little bit of dimension. Now with this big mama roll, I know you're thinking you will never go through it. I go through one like probably every month and a half, but I make a lot of cards too. But I think adding dimension to your card projects is one of the best way to kind of set it apart from like a store-bought card. The other thing I really like to do with this adhesive is double it up. So I've just folded it over on itself, and then I can't tear it when it's doubled up, but I can cut it. And so I can cut it down into a smaller piece. I can put it down on the back of this little doggy here, and then he's gonna sit up just a little bit higher than that scooter. And then I have 3 levels of dimension on this card with that flat adhesive, a single layer of foam adhesive, and then the double layer of foam adhesive. Foam adhesive is a must-have for shaker cards, and this long roll of adhesive allows you to put down areas of foam adhesive for your shaker cards really quickly and easily. Now, if you want like a pre-cut version of this, the Gina K foam squares are really great. They come in like a little dispenser box. They're little squares, and you can just add them on, and you peel off the backer, and then they add dimension just as well. So if you're working with a smaller image or a smaller area, you can quickly pop one of these out of the box, pop it on the back of your stamped image or your die cut, whatever you're working with, and then place it onto your card. Now you can double these up as well, which I'm doing here with the orange, and then you can see I have different varying levels of dimension, which makes my card a lot more interesting and can sometimes require extra postage, so just keep that in mind. Now next up is this Cool Tack clear foam adhesive. This, I have a love-hate relationship with this. I won't reach for this like for everything because the backer is very staticky and it loves to stick to me. But this is great if you need to kind of disguise foam adhesive a little bit more behind some vellum or something like that. It works in the same way, it's just clear. Now, when I say I add it to the back of vellum, it doesn't mean you cannot see it. It's not completely invisible, but I thought I would include it in the adhesive guide because it is something that I use from time to time on like embossed vellum strips or something like that. Now I'm gonna cut a little heart out of this vellum, and I have a piece of that Cool Tack clear foam adhesive on the back, and you can see it, there's a little shadow. But if I'm gonna choose, this is gonna be a lot less conspicuous than like a white foam adhesive, especially if you're going onto like a colored cardstock. So it's just something nice to have on hand. Now next up in the foam adhesive department is the Scrapbook Adhesives foam sheets, and these are great. I was super excited about these. They die cut really well. This is just the plain foam here. I've die cut it and it's popping out fairly easily. You do have to work to get it out a little bit, but it's not because it didn't cut all the way. It's just because it likes to stay in its home. If this was a simpler shape, it would probably pop right out. And since it die cuts so well, I thought I would just show you guys that it also die cuts well on the back of a cardstock. Now, this is probably an 80-pound cardstock, so it's not a super heavy cardstock, but I did put the foam on the back of it, and it cut all the way through the cardstock and the foam adhesive. It did not cut through the backer, but that's okay because I can just pull this out, leave the backer in place, and then I have a dimensional foam-backed die cut here that's ready to go on my card. So this is great for like intricate dies, like this little hello die. I don't know if I would go to like maybe to a doily with this or anything, but it does work. It works well. So if you don't want to stack up your die cuts for dimension, this could be an option as well. Now I did save the backer from my Stick It adhesive earlier to lay this die cut on top of while I was removing the little inside pieces. So that's a great tip. You can use that non-stick backer for other things in your craft room. So be sure to hang on to a few sheets of those. And then I'm using the negative space of this die cut to place this onto my card so that it's as it was originally intended, because some of these intricate dies can get stretched out as you're working with them. So those are the Scrapbook Adhesive 3D foam creative sheets. Great to have on hand. You could also punch these out or cut them out. Now, next up, we're getting into the liquid adhesives, and I have just a few to share with you today. The first two are the Gina K Connect glue and the Lawn Fawn glue tube. Now, these are very similar. I love both of them. They have a great fine tip. They're easy to use. I'm going to just kind of write them out. They dry clear, so they're fabulous for adding some like sequins or that sort of thing. In fact, I've found that I've been reaching for these lately to adhere my sequins. They're great for adhering like craft foam to the back of large areas of cardstock. I just find they're really convenient. They have a great little lid that twists on really easily. I don't have problems with these clogging or causing problems. Sometimes they do get a little pressure built up in them and they want to burp like a little extra glue out, so be careful with that. But I'm able to put out these really tiny dots of adhesive on the back of some of these more intricate die cuts and use that to stack several dies on top of each other or add this onto my project. And it sets up really quickly. So I'm just finding I'm really happy with it. I also really like the Tombow Mono Multi Glue, but I think that these kind of have a leg up on them in that the tip is much more fine and easier to put out smaller amounts. Now, next up is the Zig 2-way glue pen, and I really like the chisel nib. And once again, it's great for adding onto the back of intricate die cuts to adhere them onto a project. Either one of these would work. You're probably going to get a firmer hold with the Gina K Connect or the Lawn Fawn glue tube. The Zig is great because it dries sticky. You can use it either as permanent or repositionable if you let it dry first. But I like the Zig 2-way glue for things like transfer foil. So I've allowed that Zig 2-way glue to just dry up there. It's going to make it sticky. It's going to dry up a little bit tacky. Then I just added a piece of transfer foil over the top, rubbed it into that glue, and then I can kind of almost paint on areas of transfer foil. Now, I thought I would just try it out with this Gina K Connect and the Lawn Fawn glue tube as well, and this did work. I don't know if this is intended to dry a little bit tacky, but I found that it did. It may not have been all the way set up, but I know the Zig 2-way glue pen works well for this. The difference in the Gina K Connect and the Lawn Fawn glue tube is that it does have a little dimension to it. So it's something you can kind of play with here. You can see it worked fine with all the glues, but the Zig 2-way glue is the one I generally reach for if I'm going to be doing the transfer foil technique. Now, we can't talk about liquid adhesives without talking about the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. This has been a long-time favorite. The thing that is challenging about the Multi-Medium matte finish is that it doesn't come out in very small amounts. So generally, you're going to want like a tip on it. I also really love glossy accents because it is a great adhesive, but it is also a great kind of finishing touch on your cards to add a little bit of shine. So those are my top picks for liquid adhesive here. We have Multi-Medium Matte, we have Glossy Accents, Gina K Connect, Lawn Fawn Glue Tube, and the Zig 2-way glue pen. Now let's get into specialty adhesives. First of all, we're going to start with the ThermoWeb Purple Tape. It is now available in a 1/2-inch wide tape, which is great to put in a tape dispenser and keep on your work surface. And what do I like to use this specialty adhesive for? I like to hold my dies in place while I'm running them through my die cut machine, especially if I'm using coordinating dies that require them to stay in perfect positioning for me to get the right cut. So you can see I've run this through my die cut machine. I'm able to pull it off. It doesn't damage my paper. I can also use this to kind of hold onto my die while I put some adhesive on the back of it, or use it as a handle to kind of position it onto my card project so that my fingers are out of the way. It's a really great adhesive. Now, another option for a similar kind of tack of adhesive is the Frog delicate surface painter's tape, and I've used that for a long time and I've really liked it. I really like this purple tape though, and I'm kind of late to the party on this one because I feel like it took me a really long time to try this, and when I tried it, I loved it. Now, the other thing you can do with this is actually use it as masking, so I've just blended a little bit of ink over the top to show you that it makes a great mask as well. Now, next up in our specialty adhesives is the Pixie Spray. This is intended for a repositionable tack on the back of your stencils. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this outside, put it in a box. You're going to spray it from about 12 inches above. You're going to let it dry for about 1 minute. And then it's going to have a nice lightweight tack that's going to hold it in place on your card surface or your paper surface while you're doing your stenciling techniques over the top. So I'm just going to show you, I took it outside, sprayed it down, and now this intricate stencil is staying in place as I blend over the top. I don't have to worry about those little pieces moving. And you can remove this with some soap and water or some alcohol-based hand sanitizer. That's what it says on the back of the bottle. But this is great to have on hand to kind of just add a little bit of stick to the back of your stencils. All right, so let's get into a few accessories here, and these are the 3 accessories I want to talk about. The craft pick, you've seen me use that all through the video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But another one is one of these adhesive erasers, and I have adhesive on this cardstock. This little pickup square or adhesive eraser is great for removing adhesive. I find that I don't tear my paper, and I can just kind of roll it off of the paper and be left with a clean surface. It's also great for like dried up liquid adhesive, and I find myself using that a lot. Now, next up are these really fine point tips. There's a couple of brands available, so you may want to research which ones you want. These are meant to go with iCraft adhesives, so I have a bottle of iCraft adhesive here to show you that it just makes a really fine point tip for your liquid glue to come out. I tried it on my multi-medium matte finish. It worked beautifully. I unscrewed it and I put it on top of my glossy accents, and it worked perfectly. The thing with these fine tip applicators is that you really want to make sure you take the time to clean them after you're done using them. So I like to tap the adhesive down, kind of burp any extra adhesive out of the tip. Then I will stick a stainless steel pin in the top and pull it out and kind of clean it a couple of times, and then I can store it with that tip or that pin in it so that it doesn't clog up. So they do take a little bit of maintenance there. So once again, here's a look at all of the adhesives that we went over today. Not an all-inclusive list of all the adhesives, but the ones that I reached for the most. And I really hope that you learned a little something about each of these different adhesives, what I like to use them for, and I hope you picked up some tips and tricks along the way. As always, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the EllenHutson.com YouTube channel so you won't miss any of our paper crafting and card making video tutorials here. I'm so glad you stopped by, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.